Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. So, this is a long going tradition ever since the beginning. I rolled out this protocol. And I love routine and I love tradition. And I don't love my hair this morning, but that's okay. So, yeah, we're on flu season, y'all. Flu season. And this is when everybody trips out and thinks, based upon your biochemistry and your belief system, people think the flu season is manufactured by biotech, by the vaccine industry, just trying to take your money, and other people just accept it for what it is and get their flu shots and just deal with it and wait for the axe to fall. And I'm just going to give you a little tiny background as far as flu season. All it is that the body is trying to adapt from one environment to another environment. That's it. And viruses, are still around. We're still surrounded by people. The environment is still basically the same, going through fluctuations, but the body is trying to adapt from a warm environment to now a cold environment. And then when it tries to adapt, mutations happen. And then it also leaves you a little bit open through that adaptation process if you have a weak body for then any new virus in the environment. Okay, because where do new viruses come from? This is where people are like, well, how does it happen? Well, people have issues in their body. Okay, when you are, let's say, HIV negative, I'll just use that as an example. If you're HIV negative, but you've been exposed to AIDS, and then as you get older, you then get another AIDS or get another HIV test and you're HIV positive. Well, that means that your body has lowered its immune system because of the aging process, and the antibodies are now multiplying, they're agglutinating. And so then you have HIV positive. And then as the body degrades even further, because the body is not being reinforced with nutrients and minerals, then you have the AIDS virus, okay? So that's the same progression with humans who have already been exposed to viruses during the summertime. They're asymptomatic because their immune system is relatively strong. But when you go from one environment to another, and they're pretty extreme, especially with environments such as Ohio, but even California, because the flu season happens in California too, from summer to fall. Okay, so it's like no matter what, you already have the viruses in you that you've been exposed to. I mean, people are more communicable when they are sick, and it strengthens a virus. And this is why you see then widespread pandemics. And right now I'm watching a lot of my friends drop like flies, not dying, but they are now afflicted with the flu. And so that's why they're pushing the flu vaccine. So if you have a weak immune system and then you get a vaccine, it's a weak attenuated virus to help you transition to the new environment. Okay, so adaptation and mutagenesis go hand in hand, but you can evolve or you can devolve. Right now in the matrix, hey Faved, right now in the matrix and in the alternative matrix, people are devolving. So yeah, they're still exposed to viruses, but what happens is as the body degrades, they are, getting afflicted with the symptoms. Every single time there's a change in their environment. Every movement they make, which I can make movements, and I already have enough on reserve that I have enough on reserve to allow me to do this, to allow me to hit end and send and take my dog out. And then sometimes environments change, such as me going from inside to outside. Sometimes environments change where I'm going from my house to another person's house who has the flu virus. Okay? But how you deal with the changes in the environment is relative to the state of your body. Okay? So you're always going through different adaptation processes. You're always going through some kind of mutagenesis. And I learned the word mutagenesis from my friend Lori LaRock a long time ago, way back in the beginning, when we were trying to figure out mutations. And at first I was actually characterizing mutations as something bad. But it was something that's the perspective I came from, given that I was dealing with my cancer disease and chronic illness, my PMDD, and then dealing with all of your issues. So in my head, mutations were bad, and they were bad for a long time. Then within the last like 3 or 4 months, I realized that mutations aren't necessarily bad because they also helped us evolve from being a Neanderthal and Homo sapien to now a stronger human race. Okay, but it took mutations to have that happen. Viruses have always been in the mix, and all viruses are is just data. And then I took it to the next level where actually viruses are human spirits that are missing the nucleic acid, missing the actual human body. But I'll tell you about that a little bit later. But all viruses are just basically data, and they are all over the world, all over everything. You can't get away from viruses. You cannot live in a bubble. Okay. Good morning, everybody. And so every single time you adapt to a new environment, you're going through some kind of mutation, mutagenesis, mutation, whatever it is, because you're going to have that environment impact your internal universe. But your internal universe, your inside body has to be stronger really to be able to handle those changes. So that's why you're seeing people who are newborns or who are elderly or who are very immunocompromised taking on like transplants. They have to stay away from people. They have to wear masks and stay away from anyone that is pathogenic. What is pathogenic? Well, it doesn't mean the person is like poisonous. It just means that they have a lot more data and information than that specific body can handle that's wearing the mask. So pathogen and toxin and poison and pollution all are relative to the state of the actual human perceiving that environment. And then we have people collectively imposing their perceptions of the environment onto the general population. And this is where you get then the mainstream media saying, oh gosh, watch out, don't eat meat because it's pathogenic. But it's only pathogenic through the eyes of the media, who are just as sensitive to meat and all of the different acids because of their imbalances. And then the collective, because CDC and the FDA and all those have done enough studies on enough people who are collectively degrading collectively at the same time with very similar diseases, have adverse reactions to meat or other things. But then there's another population that doesn't have adverse reactions to meat. So that's why you're seeing, the perception of pathogen and toxin, okay, because it does come from people with weak bodies who are adapting to the environment. But every single time you adapt and you mutate and you're not reinforcing and replenishing the reserves, you lose a little bit. And then with all of that, also malabsorption. Okay. So if you already have, now if you're going through the mutation, going through the adaptation from one environment to another, and then you're also dealing with malabsorption. Since you're not fixing the weaknesses, you have malabsorption. Where does that come from? When you have too much fatty acid and imbalance in your fatty acids, amino acids, prohormones, and minerals. And when you have imbalances in those, it punches holes in your gut to where you're not able to absorb the nutrients to then replenish your reserves. That's why you're seeing the progressive decay in our society, because people are always going to be adapting and mutating based upon their movements and based upon the state of their body, what they brought themselves to the table, and then what they have done over the last however many years. And then they are also losing minerals because they're not reinforcing, they're not actually fixing the malabsorption issue, the leaky gut, okay? And how that is you have to balance out all of your fatty acids, amino acids, prohormones, and minerals. And then people are trying to do that in the matrix and in the alternative matrix, but it's not working because they keep causing more imbalances. For example, during flu season, instead of the flu shot, what do they push? They push elderberry syrup, or they push vitamin D. Okay, vitamin D is a hormone. Elderberry syrup is basically acid. So what are they doing? They're causing more imbalances. And that's why you're seeing then the progressive decline in humanity. And then it's coming faster and faster because every single generation procreates on very weak bodies. Every child in every generation, it gets weaker. I mean, children turn into adults. Okay. So, when you are losing way more than you're bringing in, that's called the second law of thermodynamics. When you're losing more than you're bringing in. The second law of thermodynamics is in all energy exchanges, if no energy enters or leaves the system, the potential energy of the state will always be less than the initial state, also known as entropy. But I mean, we're seeing people, I mean, if you're just like a vegetable and you just sit there, then you're going to atrophy, but you're not going to lose more, but then you are, because, you know, the environment and you're just breathing is an energy that depletes minerals. If you're dead, then you're just, and there's no energy going on. But if you're alive, some amount of energy is happening and it's depleting your minerals. That's why you're seeing people, you know, just when they're in hospice, eventually they just pass away because they're still moving around, but they don't have enough minerals, and then they have major weaknesses in their vital organs, and then they shut down, and then there's no more. Okay. So every movement, so that's why I say, like, even when you pick up a cup of coffee, okay, that's a movement that your body has to go and replenish. So you have to break it down to even the most slightest movements to then the most extreme. A movement is an adaptation. It is a mutation. But your body can recover really fast if you have a relatively healthy body, recover from that movement of picking up your coffee. And then you go to the extreme of like building houses. So when someone's building houses like you, Jeff, you know, when you're doing construction, now you really have to go and replenish those minerals and nutrients that you're losing from that major arduous exercise. Okay, it's not even exercise, that major arduous labor intensive type activity. So you go from a very benign activity to just being inert and just breathing and just watching TV and letting your brain waves go and your eyes move, and maybe you talk to the person next to you. Maybe you do eat some food and whatever, but then it goes to the most extreme to where you are going and throwing steel, driving a truck, or building houses. And so your diet and your lifestyle, as far as your food intake and your body, has to work in accordance with your lifestyle, with you replenishing. Okay. And so that's why then we have the J juice to kind of give people a reset, and also then find or understand the indicators to know when they need to kind of relax. And it's always going to be a balancing act to where you're either going to be doing a lot of activity and resting, and then drinking enough J juice to not only replenish from that daily activity, but also fix past issues, present issues, and future triggers. And so, you know, that's why the J juice can be very complicated to explain, because it is a balancing act. That's an individual thing. Okay. So mutations aren't necessarily bad. It's just an adaptation. And then we are evolving continuously, but it's the perception of what is evolution. Some people thinking that autism is evolution. It's now, and then people are gonna say, you know, hey, it's a de-evolution. Well, yeah, because it's an imbalance. It's an imbalance. When you have one area of your body working so much harder and more, I guess, enhanced, then that is an imbalance. Okay. When, you know, so yeah, you can have superpowers and having more of an enhancement in one area, but then you'll see then the weaknesses, the major weaknesses in other areas. So it's a really, when you think about evolution, it's really the balance of the body, mind, and spirit, where it's able to take care of itself, okay, and protect itself. And it's not so imbalanced where you then see a person who's so smart in one area, but then they're so totally inept in another area. The person should really, really be relatively well-rounded when it comes to the balance of the body, mind, and spirit. And that is controversial and very political, but it's something that we need to recognize. So, you know, so it's the perception of what you think evolution is, and then de-evolution. Evolve or devolve. And, you know, when somebody, and how what the indicator, or how I know when something characterizes as a de-evolution is when you're diagnosed. If there is a diagnosis on your condition, whatever it is, it's a de-evolution. But not so you can't work with that. Of course you can work with that. But then the end result is then the death trajectory, and some are going to be faster than others. So then you have to look at the specific measurable result. Yes, you can de-evolve and be more enhanced in one area and lift weights and do all these things, but then if your whole point is to live and you love life and you don't want to die, why would you want to die like 20, 30 years from now? Why 50 years from now? Based upon the perspective, if you're like 15, but when you're 15, you're not going to have that kind of mindset of like wanting to live a very long time. I mean, you think you're going to live forever when you're like 15, and then you realize that that's not the case when you start seeing your body break down. So it's just everyone's going to have their perception and then their intention and then their expected outcome. And so that's where this gets kind of like a little sticky, but hey, whatever. So anyway, so mutations aren't bad. It's just based upon, is it de-evolution or evolution? And that's based upon the perception of each person and what they expect at the end, or what they expect out of their life and their belief system. Okay. So, so every single time you go through a season change, so from summer to fall, and then from fall to winter, and then from winter to spring. And that's why I'm watching my dog go through all of her evolution and her adaptation, and she's adjusting to the new environment. And yeah, there was a couple weeks where her immune system wasn't low, but there was more pestilence out there, and then her skin is trying to adjust. I mean, she's a bit more itchier, but that's okay. But I remember back when I first got her and she had this fatty tumor, and I noticed that every fall, she was fine during the summer, fatty tumor that was there, and it was just like a thing, looked like a nipple, but it wasn't. It was just like right there. But then I noticed in the fall that fatty tumor would get full of pus, and I'm like, what the heck? And so that's when I'd be applying all these different holistic remedies and trying to manage that. And then I noticed that during that fall, she would have more skin conditions. You get all these red marks and allergies and everything. I'm just like, geez. And so it was a fight I got her in 2015. So it wasn't like I haven't had her that long. So I had from 15 to 16 to seeing her, her body adapt to the new conditions every season. But now, I mean, I got her fatty tumor. Now it doesn't at all act up during the season change, but just a little bit of a skin thing, that's it. And then maybe a few pestilence because of the amount of fleas are out in the backyard because of the feral cats and the wild animals. But that's now all finally done. Maybe a few itching here and there, but no more fleas. And she's perfectly fine. She's adjusting now to the new conditions, as well as because I could see myself adjust to the new conditions, maybe a bit more sleepy. Maybe I had dry skin. And then I had a few more mucus stuff, I think, for about 24 hours a couple of days ago. And that's it. And I felt great. So every single time you go through an adaptation, adjustment, acclimation, your body should be able to recover. But some bodies can't go through those changes. Some people, may have a condition to where they cannot deal with changes in their routine, and they have a very hard time. And those are people that are very unhealthy. Okay. So you'll see those different, shades of just intolerance to adaptation and change. And that's based upon the balance or the imbalance of their biochemistry. Okay. So then from that point, then crimes. I mean, you look at my timeline, and there's some crimes that are like just as benign, well, not benign, but such as like so superficial as like shoplifting a candy bar, which you should never do, all the way to sex crimes against children. All of that, when you actually see people do some crazy stuff like walking 351 miles to go have sex with a minor, that is a biological imbalance, and it's a criminal biological imbalance. I mean, they know it's wrong, but they also, I'm not saying they can't help themselves, but when somebody has to go and hide what they're doing, and they know it's wrong because they know society says, hey, you're not supposed to do this. These are the laws. You're not supposed to steal. You're not supposed to, have sex with someone below 18 and all that stuff. But yet they do it, but they know it's wrong and they're trying to hide it. That's when you know that yeah, even though they know it's wrong, but they're still that mentally and biologically imbalanced that they'll still do it anyways. So even though, yeah, they know it's wrong and they still do it, it's still a major imbalance. And yes, you go to jail for that, or you go to a mental institution. That's where the law then decides if you are mentally incapable and you don't need to die if you killed somebody, or if and it depends on the crime of passion, all that stuff. So the law has to go and figure out the intention and then the mental state of the person. But I'm watching like all the stuff on Facebook, and so much of these sex crimes against kids is happening. I'm like, holy crap. And it's rampant. It's crazy. So I'm just like, dude, when we have so much imbalances biochemically in our society, yeah, they can look like your next door neighbor. It's like you have no idea what goes on biologically within a person until you find out through the law, or you catch them in the act, that they have an imbalance that they're trying to hide. And some people get very surprised. They're like, oh my God, this guy was an upstanding citizen. He's a priest in our church, or he was a teacher at a school, or he's like my next door neighbor who I never thought. And then they see these tawdry, sordid details of their life, that their underground life, and you're like, holy crap. So no matter what, when you have kids in our society, you don't trust anybody. Even family, you have to almost question. But sometimes you have to have a certain amount of trust, and because you got to trust something. So you just, you got to have your gut knows. And there are people that from a long, but even then, you still, if your kid says something, you always pay attention, and never ever let your kids go on the internet by themselves with their own password. Holy crap. But I mean, we have parents that are oblivious, so it's what it is. But I'm just saying that it's a biological imbalance, all the different crimes. Okay. And so we have to recognize that. And then, yes, that's what jails are for, is for those that know, and they could potentially be rehabilitated. And sometimes just saying, hey, you did something bad and the person got caught, and then the person changes themselves, and they can change their own biochemistry just by behavioral, not so much chemical, but even behavioral and reinforcement, positive and negative reinforcement, could help people change from being one way to another. But then that's where the law comes and figures out what the appropriate rehabilitation or the appropriate punishment. Okay. So we just have to understand that's where all that comes from. So yeah, crimes are committed by those with imbalances in our biochemistry, and it goes from very, very, benign all the way to very extreme, and all the points in between. And then you can see what point is very aggressive and very extreme, just by the reactions of people. Okay. All right. So then atheism to God. So I was looking, like I'm watching, like I have friends that are like, born again Christians. Then you're watching some of these Hollywood stars that gone from being atheist and what people say is satanic to then finding God. You're watching Kanye West go from being this, people say satanic and all that, selling his soul to the devil, signing the contract, to now becoming religious and finding God. Same thing with Brad Pitt. He went from being an atheist to now finding God. Well, what's behind that? But then I've also characterized God and spirituality and religion is actually, biochemistry, hormones / life. Okay. So when you're younger, you're looking forward. You're like, oh, I have all this life to live. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to be a singer. I'm going to, work in the movies. I'm going to be a veterinarian. I'm going to be a this. I'm going to be a that. And religion is really not something, they think it's some kind of control mechanism and all this perception, which, okay, some are. And then they start seeing, they look, now their body's degrading. Their biochemistry is all kind of cattywampus. They've gone through several divorces, gone through several controversial things in the media, and they're seeing their body breaking down. And mortality is now kind of coming to surface. And they're realizing that, oh, okay, back when I was younger, I felt I was, immortal. I felt this is the person saying in their head. They felt that they nothing could touch them. They're untouchable. And then as they get older, they realize they're not as immortal as they claim to be. They're not as untouchable as they claim to be. They're facing their own mortality. And so then they start turning to religion. Oh, they want to live, but they see, and this is the whole thing with the gut brain and the brain. The gut knows, based upon the biochemistry. Okay, the gut is the actual overriding brain over the heart brain, over the brain, over any other brain a person wants to say that is a brain. Okay, Kevin and I were talking about the whole thing with the brain, this brain, that brain. But no matter what, the gut is the most, is the one gut that rules them all. Okay, over the brain, and over the heart brain, the gut. So when that was interesting. I just saw like little, never mind. I'm not gonna say anything more about that. So when, when the gut knows on a death trajectory, like Brad Pitt is realizing his own mortality, like Kanye West is realizing his own mortality, now they're going to turn to God. They want to live, but it's going to be then filtered through their religion, through, Christianity or whatever it is that they have turned to, because they realize that, okay, they had fun in their youth, and now they're realizing that if they're not going to live very long because of the fact of their belief systems of dying, and they're not enhancing their biochemistry to be on a life trajectory. So they're watching themselves degrade, and so now their biochemistry is like, okay, it wants to live, but the body knows it's, or the mind wants to live and says it wants to live, but the biochemistry knows it's dying. So they'll still eat their foods and still stay kind of relatively the same. They might change their diet a little bit, but their belief system is at some point they're going to die. So it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. But yet they still say they want to live, but their gut knows they're on that death trajectory. So there's that whole misalignment of the body, mind, and spirit. And so this is my theory on why people turn to God, is because they had a very difficult life. Or why they turned to religion is because they had a very difficult life and they knew they were on a death trajectory. And so if they were to actually give credence to life, it would change the way in which they then behave in the world, which, people go from prostitution. Like I'm watching somebody on Facebook went from, being a prostitute or being human trafficked, one of the two. And then she turned to religion. And now she has a huge, community that's really helping her deal with what she had to deal with in the past. And I completely understand that, because she needs people to help keep her going. Just like Brad Pitt needs a community to help keep him going, to then figure out and resolve himself to then the next phase of his life, because he's seeing progressively as you go through the different adaptations and mutations. When your body's breaking down, that's an adaptation. Your body now is not going to be able to negotiate the environment very, as well as it used to way back when he was in his 30s. Okay? He's seeing that he may have to change his diet. He's seeing that he can't move as fast as he used to. He's seeing that. And that's when people then start picking up different religions, picking up different lifestyles, because they're seeing these changes happening and they're adapting the best way they know how. Okay? So that's my whole thing of when someone goes from atheism to now becoming religious, because they're seeing the next phase of their life is on that degradation scale. They're not developing anymore and then plateauing and then living. Okay, so when he was growing up, he was developing, Brad Pitt, for instance. And then he had a plateau of his career, and then the whole Angelina Jolie and Jennifer Aniston stuff. And then now he's seen his body degrade, and he's adopting new ways of looking at his new phase in life. It's the aging process. He wants to live, but the body is dying, and there's that misalignment. So I completely understand and get the whole atheism to God thing, especially during some real extreme situations in people's lives. Okay, and then the whole thing with the Zach Bacon. It's like I'm watching the Ghost Adventures every Saturday. Every Saturday I watch Ghost Adventures. And it's like a thing I watch with my husband, because when we first met, he introduced me to Ghost Adventures when we first met, like physically. Like we were on the phone for 6 months and talking back and forth through Facebook and social media on the phone. And then finally I met him in person in October of 2010. And so when we finally got DirecTV and cable and everything set up, at the house that we were at way back when, he was watching all of his hunting shows because he was an avid hunter and trying to introduce me to hunting, and then also the whole Ghost Adventures. And so it's been kind of like an ongoing thing. And a couple of years ago, I wouldn't be able to watch Ghost Adventures by myself, but now I can kind of watch it by myself. But now that I have kind of a ghost in my house, So I'm like, well, maybe I need to watch it with him again. Not that I'm afraid of it, but it's just one of those things like, okay, it's a little too close to home at this point. But anyways, but I'm watching some of these, a lot of his shows, where it's like each programming is becoming more intense, or each episode is becoming more intense. I'm like, what's the next thing? Is he going to do a human sacrifice at some point on television? No, he's going from, going and chasing ghosts in some areas where, like, they have people that just have like family issues, to then like, some kind of landmark type of site, to now like serial killers, where, watch the thing with John Wayne Gacy, where he goes into the prison of John Wayne Gacy, where he was housed and did all this stuff. And then you're watching them as they degrade, the spirits are becoming stronger and attacking them more. See, he wasn't attacked as much when he was younger, but he could still see the ghost because that's where his energy was going. But then you're seeing now, it's that each episode is becoming more extreme. I'm like, holy crap, it's like they're sacrificing themselves for the money and the ratings, but you're seeing them being destroyed systematically because of the fact they are aging, and then these ghosts that they're dealing with are attacking them. And you're just like, holy crap. And so I don't know how he's going to top the serial killers, but that's the thing, that I'm like, okay, so the spirits aren't getting stronger. It's just Zach Bagans is getting weaker. And so it seems like the spirits and all of his adventures are, becoming stronger. But that's the thing in our society. It's not that, the viruses are getting stronger. I mean, they are and they aren't. It's that people are getting weaker. So it just depends on your perspective. You strengthen your body, the viruses are nothing. They don't even affect you. But you have a really weak body. Man, that's why they keep saying every year the flu season is that much worse. And it's true for some people. I mean, our radiant people are dropping like flies right now. I haven't even got, I got a little touch of it just by just a little bit of mucus overnight, 24 hours, but that's about it. No coughing, no, headaches, no nothing. But whenever you go through an adaptation change, your body has to adjust. And if you have a very weak body, you'll be open to all the different viruses that are going to then take over all of your systems. And then the body has to then defend itself and then purge. And then you get headaches and you get mucus and then you get like coughing. And I remember when I used to get sick every freaking fall, I would be coughing for days and days. And so where I couldn't go to the movies with my friends because every like 5 minutes I'd be coughing. Thank God those days are over. Thank freaking God, because that really, but now I don't even go to movies. So I was like, okay, what's up? I just watch movies from home. I don't leave my house a lot, but when I do, when someone lives in a bubble and they don't reinforce their body, they'll get hit by all the different viruses and they'll be down. I can live in a bubble of my home. So my husband's out there, so he gets in contact with so many viruses and he could bring them home. So, but I can be, I can be in a bubble in my house and then go out to Aldi's or go to Giant Eagle or go to Walmart or go wherever, and I'd be exposed to the public and I come home and nothing. But, those that don't reinforce their bodies, or they're organic or they're vegan and vegetarian, and they live in a bubble, and then they try to go and commune with people, or they're unvaccinated and are afraid of the vaccinated, and they try to then go and commune with people, they come down that quick because their body is that weak. So, you can live in a bubble and be very strong, or you can live in a bubble and be very, very weak. Yes, Kevin, same. Just coughing, some mucus for 30 minutes and bam. Yeah. So, and really my whole process, and that's good that you did for 30 minutes. I'll get tired for about an hour. Like I'll take a nap. I think the last couple of weeks I took a nap for about an hour every day. And then, so as my body's adjusting to the change. And then I had, just the little blow my nose. And then, then sometimes in the morning you just got to hack out more. And that's about it. But that's the way the body's supposed to work. Okay. So, so the viruses aren't getting stronger, but only on weaker people they are. So the perception the viruses are getting stronger is based upon the person writing that sentence. They're just that much weaker. Okay. the spirits and the whole Ghost Adventures aren't getting stronger, though. I'm watching through the eyes of Zach Bagan, right? Because now we're watching through the perspective of Zach Bagan, who is getting weaker, and so is Aaron, and so is Billy. Okay. But and I'm watching him do each episode, and they're just more extreme than the next. I'm like, Jesus, gee. But I'm watching it through his biochemistry. And then what happens is people take that as a reality, that the spirits are getting stronger, the virus are getting stronger, but it's based upon the perception of the one that is writing the article, or of the industry then doing a collective statistical, analysis based upon all of their research, and the people coming in to their clinics, and they're writing everything down, reporting to the CDC how many people are getting afflicted by the flu viruses, in that area. So this is the whole thing with the J juice, is you change your biochemistry, you change your perspective. Okay. And it's something that's why I'm saying that the gut brain will always be the presiding brain, because when your gut brain changes, your heart brain changes, your brain changes. Not so dramatically, but sometimes it is for some people. Sometimes it could be very benign, very like you don't really notice until maybe you look back, you're like, oh wow, I usually, when that person brings up this subject matter, I flip out. But then when they brought up again, and it didn't even faze me. Those are the things you're gonna notice with the J juice. And when your biochemistry changes, your whole perception of the world changes. And that's why it's such an individual process. It's not something really we can talk about in a universal level as far as what to expect. I mean, there are certain things you expect based upon just the way the body works and what kind of elements you bring in. But as far as your outcome, I can never tell you. You tell us what you're experiencing on the J juice. It's something that you'll share with us, and then we get a glimpse of how the biochemistry goes through its adaptation, mutagenesis. Okay, so you can mutate in a good way, you can mutate in a bad way, you can evolve or devolve, however you want to characterize it. It's all the same thing. Okay, so but the specific measurable result, if you want to be aligned and consistent with your thought process of life, is that there is no death unless you violate the laws of life. Because there's two absolutes in the world: life and death. You're either on a life trajectory or you're on a death trajectory. Okay? And then it's called a balancing act. How do you balance out when you're on a death trajectory? How do you balance out life? Where you're like, oh, I'm going to die, but I just don't want to die today. But I want to live, but I just don't want to die today. But I'm going to die. That's why it's so confusing out there. That's why it's so confusing in the medical system. Oh, yeah. We have all these remedies and immunotherapies and procedures to stop the pain, but then we're going to give you a vaccine to bring up the pain and bring up the symptoms. And then people out there in the matrix and alternative matrix don't even know what to think anymore when they're like, oh, yeah, the industry, the holistic allopathic industry is all about taking away pain and stopping the disease, but then yet they're bringing it on. So that's why you're having the conspiracy world go freaking nuts. That's why you have the anti-government people who are just freaking out, okay? Because they're getting mixed messages from the establishment. And then, yes, they are also sustaining and perpetuating the same mixed message. And then they loop. So the anti-government people and the government loops and begets each other. And that's why that's why anti-government and pro-government are one of the same. I'm just, hey, there's a place for it all. And where do you want to be with it all? So I just be here on the sidelines eating my popcorn, which is not on the protocol, but down the road you can have popcorn. I'm just here watching it, and it's all entertaining to me now. It is all entertaining to me now. I swear I'm seeing these little floaty things occasionally. And it's not dust, because I'm not bringing up dust. But that little ghost thing wants to go and pop around. Just what the hell? So whatever. I mean, but I can only see through my computer. I can't, I don't see any kind of weird things, out there. But it's such a trip. So you guys just watch my videos closely, because you can kind of see a little shade of it. And it's I don't know. It's just it's a trip. It's kind of nice in a way. I call it Casper, okay? Because I'm saying, Jason, we got Casper. Okay, Casper the friendly ghost. So you guys, anyways, so that's why I wanted to break down every single one of your movements. Okay, it's all adaptation and mutation, and some of you are able to recover from your movements because you're strong, and then some of you are very, very weak. And so it's not eye floaters. No, Kevin. No. It's not eye floaters, Kevin. This is very different. You look through, some people will notice. No. I know what eye floaters are, and it's not eye floaters. Okay? It's not eye floaters. If you watch my other video, did you see an orb? You'll see that orb on that one video that I did where I said at 1903, do you see that little orb that came out from the right side? But no, I know what eye floaters are, and I don't have them anymore. That was the one time when I was in Portugal when the sun came in this way. But no, this is very different. But I appreciate your contribution. Anyways, but I do have Casper. But I'm fine with it. I don't care. Yeah, orbs. Yeah, Lord, they are orbs. Now that was an actual orb. But no, I've seen eye floaters, and they're little tiny filaments that kind of squiggle, and it's only when you look in a specific way in the sunlight. That only happened that one time when I was in Portugal, and you saw, me discovering it because I was talking with Mary Ellen and with you, and we were all having a discussion about actually spirituality is interesting. So, but no, I haven't seen eye floaters in a long time. But other than that, but yeah, there are. So I do want to see if it comes out again. Will it come out again? I don't know. Come on, little orb, come out again. Show your face again, or show your freaking orb again. But yeah, there's a lot of things that are similar out there in the world that may seem like, that's why it's so hard for people to really diagnose each other about stuff, because we can say it's one thing, but that's why they practice medicine, because there'll be a lot of characteristics that are similar to so many different names of stuff. So eye floaters, orbs, or is it lupus, or is it fibromyalgia? Is it some other autoimmune disorder? So there's a lot of similarities in manifestations with different things. So it's just, then it has to do with your personal experience. If you want to see eye floaters, just look at the blue sky and you will see them. Okay, all right, yeah. Okay, that's a good idea. We'll try that out. Kevin's great on eye floaters and blue sky, and what is he good at? The sun gazing. You like to sun gaze. I'm like, hey, I got in the sun. I look at my little computer. I hang out with my dog. Oh, no idea what you meant with those orbs. Oh, honey, there's ghosts. I'm talking about the Zach Bagans and the Ghost Adventures. Have you've never seen any orbs? You don't look at the supernatural. You don't do supernatural. Remember the whole thing with the spirit and the ghosts and the supernatural? Well, I don't know if they have it in Belgium. So Kevin's from Belgium, you guys, okay? So there is a cultural difference between, because sometimes Kevin and I have misunderstandings on certain things because he does come from Europe. He's a European dude, very smart European dude, but he's from Belgium. And there's certain nuances and certain things that may not totally translate, like some of the slang, or maybe some of the way I explain concepts aren't always, translating correctly. Though he does get it for the most part, but there's certain things that, that I have to kind of explain more, and no different him too, because sometimes he'll say something that I'm like misunderstanding. So I don't know what you know about ghosts, Kevin, or if you have that show Ghost Adventures or Ghost Hunters in Belgium. I don't know what kind of TV you have out there, or what you focus on YouTube. But if you go to YouTube, you can look up orbs and spirits, or look up Zach Bagans' Ghost Adventures, and then watch that, because that will give you a background on that, because I'm bringing that into the mix as far as the spirit world and the ghosts, because those, in what I've seen, those are actually, the viruses are actually missing. Those are ghosts. Viruses are actually ghosts in what I'm seeing, that are missing the nucleic acid. Nucleic acid is the acid that sends all the messages to then build the body from the ground up. Starting off with the vital organs all the way out to that stuff. We don't have TV yet. And shut up. You probably don't even have running water or toilets, so I don't even want to hear. But no, but that's, but that is but yeah, so that's what I'm characterizing ghosts are, basically viruses. And that's why when people get sick, it's then the virus, it's a person, a disembodied person with all of their data, their information, then, attacking, or not attacking, but then taking over the body. It's like, I mean, in a ways, I can even say that viruses and sicknesses are like a possession. I mean, but then you see people that do exorcisms, it's like being possessed. They're throwing up, they're writhing, their eyes are rolling back in their head. I mean, that's an extreme possession. But yeah, there's so many different levels of how these viruses get a hold of a person, okay? And I don't know what circumstances a person has to be in to then react to an exorcism or be possessed. I mean, I haven't studied it to that. I mean, I'm not going to that level because I don't want to, because then there's like this demonic stuff that I don't even want to get into, and that's really, so yeah, that's I'm not going to go down that road. I don't want to go down the road of demonic possession, but I can see it then translate to sicknesses in people in their bodies, physical, the body, mind, and spirit. So there's definitely a connection with the demon possession and exorcisms and cancer disease and chronic illness. There is a link, but to what extent do I want to study that? If somebody wants to offer why it is that there's some, I'm thinking it because that is the body on a really, like, that is the apoptosis, where the body is actually dissolving, or the cells are dissolving a mutated cell, or the body's biochemistry is dissolving a mutated cell and completely destroying it. Or why we have serial killers, okay? Because that is a glitchy, that is a major de-evolution. It's a apoptosis. It's, I don't know, what do you want to call it? What is when you're purging? I forget the name now. I should remember it, but autophagy, an autophagic process. So apoptosis and autophagy is a way the body is just releasing the excess or dissolving it. Okay. So, and then Kevin goes, nucleic acid DNA. I get that. It's possible what you say about viruses being ghosts because this virus is not alive. Right. Yeah. 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 Very good. That's a great connection there. The virus is not alive. Very, very, very true. It's just data, but the type of data being left behind by the state of that body at the time of that death process. So that's why you have very evil spirits and then stuff, but we only know about the evil spirits. We don't know about them. We do know about the nice spirits, I guess, because they're not like malevolent. They just kind of talk, I guess. And that's what, when you watch Ghost Adventures, there's ones that just talk and say this, but others are like more evil. So you might see a combination of the two. But yeah. So Kevin, so just so you know, with the whole thing with the orbs, if you can see it on the screen, then it's not eye floaters, okay? And people can see the orbs on the screen because the orbs, these little ghosts or the viruses, are being transmitted through this electronic equipment where you guys can see it. You guys can't see what goes on in my eyes, but you can see what goes on in my environment being translated through this transmission. Okay, so I'm gonna be watching this closely when I look back on this. But anyways, I just wanted to give you guys a hey, what's up? I spent some time with my husband yesterday, and it was good, and we helped somebody move some stuff, and I made some stew last night. So and then we watched the Ghost Adventures and some other movie. So anyways, my life is very chill, but I just wanted to say hello and keep up relations, and you guys have a good Sunday, okay? So yeah, other than that, that's all I got. Just do the J juice, learn how to adapt to that new environment, because yes, you're going to have to adapt, but now you are evolving because now you're going to replenish your reserves. with the J juice instead of devolving, losing the reserves of minerals. Orbs, okay, so Kevin, orbs are pieces of energy. Okay, so orbs, like in the spirit world with the whole thing with the ghost adventures, when they detect, like through this camera, when you can see an entity that has a lot of energy to it, and actually to where people say that they hear noises and they see apparitions, well, sometimes you'll see a little orb, and that's why you have to watch ghost adventures. Go to YouTube. And it's a little ball of light, and sometimes it's a ball of light that floats around in a very like conscious way, and sometimes it's a very fast moving thing where it comes out from like the ceiling. Like with one of my other videos, you can see that orb. Like that's what that video that said, hey, you guys see that orb that's at 1903? Go back to that video, because at 19 minutes and 3 seconds, and that one video that I actually said, have you seen that orb? It's like, yes, light energy, balls of light energy. And that's what I'm saying, Kevin. That's what I'm saying, Kevin. You know, what is your take on that light energy, and that it comes out in certain times? Okay, and that my friend was saying, or maybe it was Elo or somebody else was saying that when I was talking about naturopathics or therapists, probably will not take me on their platform because it would negate their whole protocol unless they were that advanced in their thinking and future thinking to be able to allow someone like me to come on. But best believe that the naturopathics or the therapists would never ever take me on their platform. And then this ball of this little fast thing came down to the right. I mean, it was fast, but it was big, and it caught my eye. And I haven't seen that before. From all the videos I've done in the old house that was built in 1933 to the new house, I haven't seen that before. Okay, so yeah, I mean, this is it was pretty unmistakable, and so it was kind of like, and I know I hear noises here in this house, but yeah, that's what I mean by the orb. So you'll see, like, if you see, like, sometimes you can debunk it, and it could be like, you know, a dust particle or a bug. But bugs, you know, run around in a specific way. It wasn't a spider. My husband's saying, like, oh, it was a spider coming down. No, it wasn't a spider. Spiders have a very specific movement. Bugs have very specific movement. Dust particles have very specific movement. Yeah, it came from the ceiling. And right above my ceiling is the kitchen. Actually, this is right above an open space that was walled off, because there is some walls that there's open space that we could take down a wall and open up the room a bit more. But there's something closed off in the middle here. I don't know what it is. And that's where it came from. It came from up here, right? Like where my microwave is, right behind my microwave. He says, I did see my whole room filled with white aura energy things. Are you serious, Kevin? You need to take a picture. You need to take a picture, Kevin, and then post it on Facebook or send it to me or whatever. Okay? Because yeah, my friend, she says that when she takes pictures in her house, in her old house that she lived in, she saw all these white energy balls. Okay? And sometimes, you know, and so it's just, yeah. So you just got to look at the context too. I mean, if you're in an area where there's a high dust particles and a lot of stuff going on, then yeah, you know, you have to, let's say if you're outside, but if you're in a room where everything's relatively just, you know, chill, and you're just going through your camera and you look through your camera and you see just something, yeah. Only I can see that. No, I'm talking about through the camera. Through the camera, not through just what you see, but through a camera. When you look through, you have to look through a camera, not through the naked eye. You really can't see those light particles through the naked eye. It has to be through electricity. Yeah, then I don't know what you're saying. You're seeing then eye floaters or something. But I'm talking about when you look through, because the camera is able to pick up energy that the naked eye wouldn't. Okay, so that's the difference. If you only can see it, then you have something else going on in your biochemistry. And you can call it whatever you want. You can call it spirituality, you can call it hormones, you can call it imbalance. Everybody has a characterization of what only they can see. But if everybody else sees it through a universal medium, such as a camera or a lens, then you know it exists, and it's not through the perception of that being. That's why they do these shows And people say, oh yeah, they're doctorating, it's all fake and all that. But no, I see it in my own world, and I'm not doing any kind of doctorate. I'm not that talented as far as doctoring up films. So, okay, that's cool, Kevin. That's cool. That's cool. That's cool. I don't discount your ability. Yeah, everybody has different abilities as far as their biochemistry. That's why some people are psychic, because they have abilities to tap into certain parts of their biochemistries. Okay. And everybody has different, and it's, you know, and sometimes the JGs could take away people's psychic abilities, sometimes they can enhance it. I don't know. I can't say what is normal or what is supposed to be. Like, I don't see auras or what I characterize auras. I don't have psychic abilities or what I think. I have dreams of really crazy stuff lately. Actually, I'm like, I don't even want to, but I mean, but I don't have psychic abilities. Yeah, I'm sure you could, but if you want to learn it, but I really don't have any kind of, you know, needing to. When you start exercising certain parts of your body or manipulating, when you say you can learn, you know what learning is? It's a type of manipulation. Not saying you're manipulating in a bad way, but when you say you can learn this, you can study this, it's because you want to exercise that ability more if you happen to have that ability. And it depends on your desire. I would rather learn, you know, the law than learn how to look in a fourth dimension or 3 dimension. But that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You come from that world. That's your strength. That's great. Exercise it. Maybe the JGs will enhance it. And then you'll be this walking prophet. But whatever it is, the JGs will help enhance whatever ability you want to enhance at whatever desire. Okay? So, and that's perfectly fine. It's when we then start characterizing what is normal to people is when we have to kind of step back and say, okay, whatever these desires are on the J juice is normal, and it will fluctuate. Yeah, I'm sure you can learn, and yeah, I'm sure. So, but anyways, I want to explain to you what the orbs are so you understand. Okay, Kevin. So you understand. Because it's through the medium, the universal medium of the electricity, electronics, you know. So that's what I want to make sure that you understood what orbs were. And they are floating pieces of energy, especially if they're conscious enough, which when they do appear at certain times. And it's not like I see it all the time. That's only on certain, like, this only happened recently. This hasn't been happening. I haven't seen orbs at all that I would characterize that would actually like kind of strike me as like, what? Because that was really unmistakable a couple days ago. Okay, so that right there in that context was something different. It was out of the ordinary. It was extraordinary. Okay, that's the difference, is the context. And I wasn't practicing any kind of 3D thinking or looking or anything like that. I'm just doing what I do every single day. Okay. So when something happens like that, as extraordinary as that light thing that came out, that was definitely something to be, you know, to look at and wow, holy crap. All right. So anyways, you guys do what you do best. We all have different strengths and weaknesses. We're all going through at different levels of healing. And, you know, we try to do the best we can to understand where everybody's coming from. And yeah, enjoy your Sunday. Enjoy your Sunday. All right. I will talk at you later, guys.